Welcome back to the deep dive. We're getting straight into the insights again today, and we're looking at sources pointing towards June 30th, 2025. It seems like there's a theme emerging, something about balancing, logic and control with a bit more compassion. We've got an astrology of the day source and a pretty interesting TarotScope involving a key figure.
That's right. The mission for you really is figuring out how to be sharp, how to be decisive, but also how to stay kind, adaptable, finding that clarity without getting, well, too rigid. And there's a great story tied to this about a figure they call the King of Clouds. It offers some real lessons there.
Okay, right. So let's start with the astrology of the day source.
Yeah.
It seems quite grounding. It talks about a collective chance to just catch our breath, take stock.
Resting, recharging, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, and tapping into inner wisdom. It actually mentions mindfulness, self-compassion, even gratitude. The idea seems to be that if you slow down, engage with those, let's say, softer energies, you actually get a clearer view. Things might feel simpler, like grace guiding you instead of you forcing it.
And what's really interesting there is how it emphasizes flexibility, adapting easily, which sets up a fascinating contrast with the TarotScope source for today.
Ah, right. The TarotScope.
Yeah, because that one focuses on the King of Clouds, and that archetype, it's often linked very strongly to the mind, to logic, order.
Okay, so this is where it gets tricky, maybe.
Yeah.
Because that King of Clouds, the source makes a big distinction. It talks about the difference between like wise discernment, clear thinking, and what it calls a death grip on how things must be.
Exactly. Clarity and order might feel like the main thing today, sure. But the source is really asking you to notice, when does that need for control stop being helpful? When does it feel more like a cage?
Like a trap you set for yourself.
Right, and it prompts some questions for you, the listener. Are you maybe overthinking? Trying to mentally wrestle situations you just can't fully predict? Or maybe using detachment as a shield, pushing for authority so hard it creates distance? Because, as the source points out pretty clearly, real wisdom isn't about dominating, it's clarity plus compassion.
That sounds like a really fine line, though, especially if you're someone who, likes planning, likes precision. Isn't that urge to control kind of natural?
Yeah.
How do we tell the difference between just being organized and that death grip thing?
That's a really good question. And the sources, thankfully, they don't just leave it there. They offer a story. It's called The Throne of Vapor. It's about this king of clouds who didn't rule with force. He ruled purely with his mind, a word, a look. He could command storms. His throne, carved from clouds, supposedly sharp enough to cut the wind. And then he had this sort of light for clarity, cutting through deception.
Wow. Okay, so immense mental power. But the story goes on, right? And this is the key part, I think. It says that even with all that mastery, the king felt the weight of it. Every precise move, every act of total control, it kind of tightened this invisible net around everything.
Yeah.
And it cut it off, isolated him from the life happening below.
Yeah, you can feel the isolation building until this child just walks up, not scared at all, holding a little flower and just whispers, "Not everything can be ruled."
Ah,
And in that moment, the king's sharp gaze just softens. He opens his hand, lets some mist swirl out. The sky kind of breathes easier. His throne is still there, but now there's space in it. Space for softness, for presence, alongside the wisdom. And that night, the winds felt different. Shaped by thought, yes, but also by the warmth of being.
so bringing this back to today for you listening, what does this all mean? It seems the real strength, the real power in control and planning, being decisive, it actually comes from being gentle, adaptable, not rigid.
You can still structure things, absolutely have a clear vision.
Right. But leave room, leave space for the unexpected, those curveballs life always seems to throw. True power is more in allowing the flow, maybe, not fighting it constantly.
Exactly. So if wisdom really is that blend, clarity balanced with compassion, here's something to think about. How might you, today, consciously invite a bit more of that warmth of being into places where your mind usually wants absolute control? What small act of maybe surrender or just gentle curiosity could shift how you approach things? Just something to mull over.